Hey everyone, how's it going? Luke from A Taste of AZ podcast. On today's episode, we're talking with the people behind Chula Seafood. They're bringing all sorts of delicious, fresh, and sustainable seafood to the Valley, which is something we definitely have a lack of. Make sure to follow Chula Seafood as well as A Taste of AZ on social media. Let's jump into the podcast.
So we're here on Central and Camelback, right?
Yes.
Northeast corner?
Uptown Plaza.
Uptown Plaza. That's a great way to put it right there. Don't worry about
Uptown Plaza.
Luke is joining me and hosting duties.
How's it going, everybody? Yep.
Nice
Doing
work.
well.
Nice work. Luke has been doing very well on his own on some episodes. So
Yeah, just the one recently with Merkin Vineyards, but that was a lot of fun. Cool spot over there, so pleasure to
Awesome.
do that one.
it's
I haven't checked that out yet.
Yeah,
It comes out today.
Oh, that episode?
Oh,
or
the episode
Merkin?
of Merkin in
Yeah.
Old
Neither.
Town? I have,
Both.
both. I have to
Yeah,
check out.
There you go.
It'll be out in a few hours here, actually. But we are here with Chula Seafood. Guys, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys are here bright and early every day. Is that right?
Well, the wholesale operation starts very early every morning, and
Yeah.
then the restaurant, we get started a little bit after.
Okay.
Wholesale starts around about 4 to 5 a.m.
Okay.
Somewhere in there.
Every day?
No, depending. Well, we're 6 days a week.
Okay.
So depending, our operation in California, as we'll get into it, that they start at 3 a.m. sometimes.
Oh, wow.
We have baker's hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Damn,
a lot of,
just love-
cutting fish and getting it ready so it's ready at the restaurants and establishments for when their hours operate.
If you think about it, like all the food service industries, you have to be ready to go early in the morning. So we're up earlier. Like you think about some guys that they go to bed at 5 p.m.
Yeah.
And then they get up at 1 to start doing stuff around 2 or 3. So
It's a funky industry, right?
Yeah.
Like a way that all that goes into it for us to have wonderful food to eat.
Yeah,
right? Like for
absolutely.
me to be gluttonous. And
I don't think a lot of people really understand the behind the scenes of how a lot of our food gets to our plate.
yeah.
So it's
Which
an
can be a good
interest-
thing or a bad thing.
Yeah,
right? Knowing-
absolutely.
Other than what you're eating. Yeah.
Knowledge is power. So
Yeah.
we're here to kind of spread that knowledge also in the realm of seafood. So it's definitely it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of hard work, and but that's why we're here. That's why we're doing it.
Yeah. And that's why we're here too. You guys are developing quite the reputation. We're like, we got to go check these guys out.
Yeah.
We got to hear their story because it's too good to be true, right?
Yes.
it all kind of started with Mandy's from Washington.
Okay.
I'm from here. Actually, my father raised me over here. I grew up on Central and Bethany Home Road.
Oh, gotcha.
Oh,
okay.
no way.
So yeah, I went to high school at Central. You'll meet Hogan later, my business partner. He went to Brophy.
Okay. So
And we went
this
to
is
grade
your
school
neighborhood.
together. Yeah, him and I have known each other since 5th grade.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
awesome, man.
We went, and then my wife and I met at ASU. I was out of ASU. She's a little bit younger than me, but she's from Bellevue, Washington, Seattle, and she always loved seafood. I've always been around seafood because of my father's commercial involvement in commercial fishing and some other stuff throughout his life.
Yeah.
But she's really the one that pushed me and my father to open up, just bring fish over here, and it started as us selling swordfish and some tuna off our boat over there to a couple of my buddies who owned restaurants here.
Okay. And
then-
what do you do? Just as a hobby? Just
Yeah,
like,
kind of. Well, so my father grew up in Arizona. He went to Central High School as well. My family moved here in 1948, I think.
Okay.
And then my father ended up going to college and stuff in Southern California, Newport Beach, and he ended up his summer jobs. He lucked out getting jobs on swordfish boats, which is the most dangerous catch.
Yeah.
Well, swordfish is the laziest catch.
Is it?
Because swordfish is always in the calmest, nicest water. It's a hard-working job, but it's kind of boring. There's not a lot of action.
Okay.
But when
Not-
there is action, it's fun.
Yeah.
So he had jobs over there. That just got us involved in the love of fishing. And then later in life, after he retired, he bought a commercial fishing boat.
Okay.
And then that's
Yeah.
kind of how, and he was just selling out of his pickup truck pretty much in 2009.
Really?
And then
That's awesome.
Mandy and I started doing farmers markets and
Yeah, I mean, I think since being from Seattle, I moved here out in 2004, and I moved out here. I'm in a desert. Seafood, probably not what I'm going to go for. But just the lack of decent quality fish for the retail consumer, there was nothing. You would go to Costco or Whole Foods or AJ's, and even then, you can see you're spending top dollar, and the quality is just not quite there.
Yeah.
So with his father having the swordfish boat, and the boat's been in the family for nearly 25 years.
Yeah.
And it's been 5 different versions of a boat. We started with one, and we've upgraded throughout the years. This boat we have now is a custom Hoquiam yacht out of Washington, built for power and pleasure. It's a beautiful, beautiful boat. And with that being said, one day John and I were just not really in awesome job positions, and kind of, what are we doing? Why don't we?
This is after college?
Yeah.
Well, what did you guys, if you don't mind me backtracking, what did you guys
no.
go to school for? Like, what was the goal?
I moved out here to go to the journalism program. I went to ASU. I'm a Sun Devil. I graduated from the Walter Cronkite program.
Mm-hmm.
Met this fine gentleman in my senior year, and took a little bit of a, I guess, a road, or I can't even think of the right word.
My story
A
is
fork in the road. I went the wrong way. I'm not the wrong way, but I
This
didn't.
is all on tape,
Yeah.
too, man. So this is,
my story at ASU is a little different. I'm still figuring out what I want to do with all my credits after 7 years. I haven't decided my major.
okay.
And I figure out when I apply. But I went to scope in Europe for a couple of years and learned some things. And I worked on my father's boats in the summer times and polished stainless steel and cut fish and did some things. And my father and I, my father also grew up bringing me to like the Baja. So we were always sport fishing. That's kind of where the love of fishing started.
Okay.
So
yeah, trips with you and your dad, like just
And my grandfather used to take my father down there. They had a lot to do with the development of the Baja and just the fishing industry down there. So just bringing it to Southern California, and then it was just kind of, we fell into it one day, because when we bought one of our boats, we were lucky enough to hire a certain gentleman who's been our captain for the last 20 years.
Oh, wow.
And it just happened to be Captain Johnny Foster. He at the time, the boat he was working on had an accident, and he didn't have a job. So we were lucky enough to hire him, and he's family, as Mandy will tell you.
Oh, yes.
And he's key to our operation, because I'd say he's the number one sword fisherman in all of the West Coast. There are lots of people out there that will tell you that as well. I'm not. Yeah. I say that off of other people's, what they say about him. And then we have a great crew.
This is the guy that's leading your.
Yeah, he's our captain.
Yeah.
He runs our whole boat. We pretty much, when you hire a captain, you give him your boat.
Yeah,
because trust him.
Yeah,
and he's the only guy that knows where the fish are besides Jeremy and a few other people out there.
It's a dying breed of people or jobs. Not as many people are growing up in the commercial fishing industry taking on those roles. So with him, it's just been he's been fishing since he was a little boy, and he carried it on, and he's been with our family for over 25 years now.
Wow.
And the key part of it is sustainable fishing.
Yes,
what do you
yes,
mean, like-
and we'll get into that.
Yeah.
So with that being said, the boat itself, we were in Arizona. We were like, let's get this fish here. Like, we need to. Your dad has awesome fish, because we've eaten it plenty of times being in San Diego.
Yeah.
And then we acquired this little white, we called it the ice cream truck. Mm-hmm. It's a little white truck that we packed full of fish and drove it from, he would hop in the car from Arizona, go to San Diego, and sometimes come back the same day. So
Dang.
Twice
This
a week.
is you
In
making
the
those
beginning,
runs.
yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
For a while.
And at the beginning, all we were
For a
doing,
while.
we were supplying a couple restaurants in town, and then we started off at the Vincent's Camelback Market on Saturdays, and that was just like
And shout out to those restaurants like Grassroots,
Yes.
F&B,
Yeah.
Charlene, who else? Back then, Richardson's, those guys. Like local people really took a shot on me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you start that? Like, what from the decision of like, all right, we're
So
going to
like
do this.
like the common like.
So Common Ground Culinary Group,
Chef Christopher Collins.
I actually began working for that family after college. So I don't know if we actually touched on what happened after college. I graduated school during the economy downfall.
2008
So I didn't
era
really
time.
carry out my aspirations aspirations of a journalist or any of that. Got back into the restaurant industry because that was something I had grown up in, and kind of just went from there. I worked from the base level position up to management for Common Ground Culinary. They became like family, and once we decided, hey, this is something we want to do within the restaurant industry, he was on board and he was like, yeah, let's get your fish in these restaurants. So we did that, and then with the Vincent's Market, we were able to provide give our fish to the on a retail presence to everyday people like you and I.
Yeah.
You know, that why can only high quality fish only be available to restaurants and hotels and all of that? Why can't everybody else see that same product? So that was kind of the basis of what we wanted to do. It wasn't just only purvey restaurants, it was purvey everybody.
Yeah.
So, and then it just kind of built from there. We did that market every Saturday. We kind of had no idea what we were doing at first, and it worked. And,
and then we decided
people came back, and then we started doing bagels. And
but we decided at one point to open a brick and mortar, and that's the point where Hogan came in.
Gotcha.
You know, at the time, Hogan was an integral piece of working at Fox Restaurant Concepts. Okay. He was part of True Foods, and he's an amazing individual, as you guys will see when you speak with him. But like his vision of a restaurant kind of took us to the next level, you know. And I say I'm a really lucky guy because I have my wife and Hogan, and it just kind of all like fell together in my lap, you know. And it was like, this is going to work, and it took off in 5 years. It really did.
Well,
it was crazy.
Our first location, which we still have, we call Rosie. It's on Hayden and Roosevelt. It's Chula Scottsdale, but that little spot used to house our entire operation. So that was we really needed a hub for wholesale. We were getting to a point where we had to cut all the fish in one spot, and then it just developed into, you know, having a fresh fish case there, developing the poke bowls with
sandwiches.
Another shout out to another restaurant, Atlas Bistro. He was on from the beginning with us as well.
Yeah.
And that's actually how we acquired Chef Juan Zamora. And he came to us solely. We needed a fish cutter, and we were like, "You're way overqualified to be a fish cutter."
Yeah.
And then he fell in love with what we were doing. He saw our product, he saw our passion, and with that, he was all on board, and he still is. He's an integral part of our business.
He's actually the person that him and I run the wholesale division together. He's my partner.
So he's not as much chef anymore. He's more quality control. He touches all of the fish and makes sure that all of our fish that's going everywhere is top notch.
That's a good person to have, right?
Yeah, and he's a kitchen guy too.
Lucky,
so
all these people.
So with that, you know, we've just through all of our journey, we've just kind of been able to grab onto these people that trust what we're doing and see what we're doing and are passionate as well, and it just keeps building onto.
And they'll talk about Hogan will talk about as well as the culture we're building here. It's a great one. It's a work environment. It's awesome.
Meaning like just the team
growth,
you're putting together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like to use the word family when you talk about work, but like it kind of we call it the fish fam because it is like we like to have a great work environment because we worked a lot of other places that we didn't enjoy working. So that's a very valuable part to us is that people like to work here
very closely together. When we were all at Chula Scottsdale, it was a very small operation. It was
like
family.
Physically close.
Oh yeah, like we had maybe like this size table for fish cutting for wholesale, and then you're like operating off the front for the restaurant side of it. So since then, the beginning of 2019, that's when we split all three. So we opened Uptown, and we opened our wholesale up at the Scottsdale Air Park. So we have it's by appointment only.
Facility.
It's kind of a processing facility. But
I think we talked about that by Freet Street, right? Are you guys?
Yeah,
absolutely
just down the road.
Yeah. Okay.
There's so much that goes on in that little area, food service wise. You're just eating because those buildings. There's so much going on over there. Boar's Head's over there. There's just so much going on, and then there's the air park. I mean, there's just it's a really cool little area. There's lots of cool food coming in and over there too as well.
Yeah. Well, that's what we were talking about earlier. Me and Hogan were talking about like the food industry here, right? I mean, because you said you grew up here. You've been here for quite a while. So to be part of that growth as well. Yeah. It's pretty amazing.
So my dad actually was one of the investors and one of the first general manager that opened the fish market on 16th Street in Camelback. And I'm probably wrong, but I think it was 1985 85 or 86 when they broke ground on it.
Okay.
And now it's now the Blue Water Grill. It's like a sister company that's taken over for them.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And
And
right
then
by the Total Wine.
And so, but the fish market's still in California. So my dad's kind of been in the fish game and restaurant business for a pretty long time.
Wow.
Since the mid 80s.
Well, that and there's a key part of it too, right? For getting people to buy into your story and buy into your what you guys are doing. It's passion, and
Yep.
it's that
Yep.
that
And a true story.
Yeah.
And that's what I've noticed, and that's one of the reasons that fired me up to kind of start this was like
Well,
I saw
yeah.
the companies claiming to know the fisherman, and
yeah.
I was like, that's
You know,
you don't know the fisherman. You're claiming to know him, and you're telling a story about him, and you're like, so that's one of the really things that fired me up. I can directly trace most of my fish to the actual fisherman, with
Yeah.
the exception of salmon coming from farms and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people don't have that. A lot of people just sell seafood versus having a boat and a connection. And we've had that commercial fishing connection for 20 plus years. So we're able to go to those gentlemen and women on the at the wharf in San Diego and buy directly from them.
Yep.
Yeah.
And in turn, we sell them our fish, and they sell us fish as
And
well.
it's a good,
Yeah.
it's
reciprocal
keeping the
relationship.
support of local fishermen alive versus having it all exported and imported from other countries. Really focusing on keeping it within our own country.
So at this point, you guys have started driving fish from, you catch it in the Baja area for the most part.
So we only fish in U.S. waters.
Okay.
And we buy all our fish from the Baja. It comes directly over from the border.
A good amount of
Yeah,
our fish. I
a
mean,
good
if you
amount.
think San Diego,
Yeah.
Baja.
Through
is a-
relationships we've had for years.
Gotcha.
With local fishermen who sell us their tuna and their grouper and the mahi and swordfish in certain seasons at times, and then we'll sell them in return.
And
the
then-
seasons turn,
Yeah.
Sometimes they sell it to us, sometimes we sell it to them. But those relationships, which allow us to get the first cut, and we get to get that below that level of those big companies, which has allowed our success.
So you're getting that fish, driving it over here, and you kind of start blowing it up and scaling it. Was there any hurdles that you had to get over? Because you're making it sound easier than I feel like it probably
Oh well,
was.
no,
Definitely
yeah.
hurdles.
So she, we had a 3-year-old. He was in her stomach when we opened. That
I mean,
little guy
he
over there.
was, Chula
Our son,
Scottsdale
Carson.
opened a month and a half after he was born. So
Yeah, okay.
it's been with that.
But yes, long hours, hard work.
But you also had a 4-year-old as well.
Yeah,
Your daughter was 4, 6.
It's and the thing, another important aspect of our company is family. We mentioned family within our employees, but family, quality of life with your own personal family is huge to us.
Yeah.
We all have small children, and we're passionate about just doing good for the community and being someone that's actually making a difference, and integrating that education of all of the where your fish comes from and what you should eat and what you shouldn't eat, and maybe you should try something new, because salmon and halibut are great, but there's so much more than salmon and halibut.
Right. Yes, absolutely. So you hurdles like the
hurdle,
the family balance.
The family balance is one.
Family balance is
Yep.
definitely a hurdle.
Yep.
I guess really,
Having emotion involved in every business decision, that's a big thing.
I mean,
Because
for
of
us
a family of
personally, as a
having-
hurdle,
yeah.
working together.
Yeah, my brother, my sister, my brother-in-law, my sister, my mom, my dad, and my niece, all there, and all my nieces are running the whole place over
So
right
this
now.
is all. This is
It's 100%.
Yeah.
And even Hogan's family, his daughters and his wife. His wife works is an equal part of the company, and the kids will probably work for the company whether they like it or not.
Yeah.
It'd be good for them though.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the biggest hurdle in terms of just our growth before the pandemic and all of that was really just, understanding the market here. And with that being said, cutting fish, processing it, delivering it, kind of training the chefs and restaurateurs in town, our way of operations. We don't just bring in a bunch of fish and try and sell it. We bring in the fish for you and then bring it to
order,
you.
yeah.
Cut it to order.
And so that takes a little bit different mindset of ordering it a little bit ahead of time, but it allows to save you some money and increase quality.
Okay.
So we've been, and not every customer is for us on the wholesale side, and then not every customer is for us on the retail side or the restaurant side,
Yeah.
And that's a good thing about, I feel like when she talked about like Costco and all these people like wholesale or like Whole Foods selling fish, I feel like we've kind of pushed them that game up, of like made them, because there's some higher quality of that stuff around town now.
Okay.
I
And
can
there's
see.
better seafood restaurants that are demanding higher quality, but it's not about demanding higher quality. It's about using what's available and using what's fresh, and
Showcasing that, like
What do you mean by that though? Like as far
like
as
using
like,
rockfish or
Okay.
using
California halibut is something we
Flounder,
love.
halibut, yeah.
It's a small flounder. It's not as large as the stereotypical Alaskan halibut.
It's lean.
but it's a
Not as much
great
fat.
white fish, flaky white fish that's less expensive, typically available all year round, and not typically known. Everyone just is like, oh, is that Alaskan halibut? And you're like, no, but this is why Cali Hallie is so great.
Cali Hallie, just because of the name itself.
Yeah. The Alaskan
Yeah.
fishermen don't like us calling it halibut, but and it's a nickname kind of. But it's just like we're trying to get more stuff showcased out of San Diego or locally out of those places. Talk to them about sheep's head. She loves sheep's head. It eats crabs and urchin. And
I mean, if
shrimp.
you
What is
ever,
sheep's
it's a
head?
California sheephead. It's like a black and red fish, and they have the gnarliest human-looking teeth you've ever seen. If you were swimming around and you turned over your shoulder and you're like, "Oh man, I'm out of here." But what they do is they hang out in the kelp patties, and they eat sea urchin, and sea urchin are evasive. And so if they weren't there chomping on the sea urchin would take over all of the kelp and chomp down all the kelp, and then the ecosystem within the kelp patty would be gone. So
and that's another thing. Eating more local, like buying sea urchin or trying to get more of that over here or something.
Yeah.
Because it's an invasive species.
and
People
it's
don't know
a
that.
sustainable operation as well. We have a diver we work with. He goes and he dives for, you need 20 sea urchin today? Yep, we need 20 sea urchin, Mitch. He goes and gets them, and then we sell them. And, it's a pretty cool thing to just have that at your fingertips. But a lot of people, it ties into the education of being able to make those choices and knowing about it versus just walking in somewhere and just immediately going to what you're familiar with.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
Well,
and that's what our chef team has been so amazing doing, is they are able to take something that someone might not be familiar with and turn it into this incredible dish, or make bolognese out of, opa, or, make, what did we do? Like a katsu sandwich out of ground swordfish for the AZ Food and Wine event last year.
Wow.
Just really taking seafood and turning it into things that you just wouldn't expect, and people are like, "Wow, I don't even feel like
I'm
I'm
most
eating
impressed
fish."
right now with what Chef Kyle and Jade are doing over here at Uptown is the Monday, especially the Cubano sandwich. They're
yeah.
using trim, or like the kind of some of the leftover scraps that
Yeah.
we use from our swordfish cuts. And I think it's the best sandwich. I
It's
think
a
it's the best Cuban in town.
Wow.
Honestly,
It's a good Cuban.
you wouldn't
It's a
so
fish
good.
Cuban,
Yeah.
And,
It's the what they've done with some of these.
there's just a lot of sustainability aspects too to our business. We're able to take, because we process and cut all of our own fish, we can take the trim or excess of something that someone might not have access to and use it to make other things.
Yeah.
It's not
Like
bad
our-
product. It's
Yeah.
just, it's like the extra chunk of meat that was on the bone that you're not selling to.
Like our smoked fish program is bonkers. Like some of the stuff they do that you've never had smoked fish that, like.
So over by the Scottsdale Airpark, you guys are smoking fish over there.
We're doing it at our restaurants, both of our restaurants.
okay,
So
gotcha.
so Kyle does a candy, like a candied salmon that we do here, and then Juan does over there at Roosevelt. He'll do like a chorizo swordfish,
Where he
or-
takes
yeah,
the
green
chop
curry.
of the the collar of the swordfish, he cuts it down, and it's basically a tomahawk chop. So then he'll take some of those and smoke that, and it's like the adobo swordfish or
green
all the
chorizo,
spices.
coffee,
so
barbecue. There's all types of stuff.
it's delicious stuff.
That's cool. It's really
I kind
innovative
of can't
too.
keep up with it.
The what?
I kind of can't keep up with it. There's lots of flavors.
Yeah.
But that's cool because it's not just, not taking away from just a cut of fish, but that's that education side of it,
Yeah.
right? Of showing people, hey, this is not just, put some lemon and butter on it, like,
Yeah,
which is great. Don't get me wrong,
No,
but
I
there's
mean,
tartar sauce is
the
good.
simplicity
It
is
is, man.
awesome, but kind
Yeah.
of making yourself step outside of that comfort zone and maybe picking the, I don't know, I can't think of a unique fish we have in the case right now.
I was gonna
but-
say you've told us a lot of unique
yeah,
fish.
I mean, like the
of
sheephead
human
or
teeth
yes,
one, yeah.
you'll never forget that.
Have nightmares about it.
I was thinking about being rude and looking up a picture of it right now, but I'm like, I'll wait.
But
Hopefully
there-
I forget about it.
There's there's other things like it's we can get like grilled oysters. Those would get people into oysters in general. You don't like oysters, you'll love grilled oysters.
Because of that, it's the
cooked and-
sliminess of the
Yeah.
raw, which
Yeah.
I like that. But
yeah, but to
it's-
me, I don't get that because first of all, I don't like big oysters. I like ones that slide down my throat. I don't want to chew an oyster.
Yeah.
But I put a little lemon or mignonette on it, but to me, it should taste like the ocean. It should smell and taste
Yeah.
like the ocean.
And then you take a grilled oyster and you cover it in butter and eat it with noble bread, and you're like, game over.
We have ways of getting people into seafood. Like my buddy the other day goes, I don't like fish, and I gave him one of our tuna sandwiches, like our confit tuna sandwich from Roosevelt, and he's had like 4 of them in the last 2 weeks. So.
It's kind of like when
not
someone's
feedback.
like, I don't like cats because they had a bad experience with a cat. Like if you grew up in Phoenix, you most likely had a bad seafood experience.
I thought you were gonna say bad
Yeah.
cat
No,
experience.
I mean that too.
We'll get to that.
You know, or-
but in the past there was bad seafood experience, but I think everybody stepped their game up for sure.
Yeah.
100%.
I think we kind of started a seafood movement here.
Which is great. Yeah.
I feel like I'm bragging saying that, but I really feel that, we were on a mission to give the people better product, and the people are searching out better product now.
Yeah.
They're asking for it. They expect it. They're asking questions. They want to know where it came from, or how did
Yeah.
you cook it, or, what kind of,
Yeah.
excuse me. I don't know where I was going to finish with that.
You're great. I was following right along.
I think accountability too also is the one thing that we do is like putting on the menu what you're serving is a big thing as well.
Meaning what? Like put
Just
what,
like how it was caught, where it came
Oh,
from,
yeah.
what type of fish it is.
and
like,
you put that on the menus.
Well, putting the right things on the menu. I won't say you just-
Transparency
yeah.
is not as common within the entire industry. I think
getting better. It's getting
I
better.
think like recently they had an article that it was some sort of flatfish or whitefish that they found mislabeled in like 80% of Los Angeles restaurants or something of the sort like that.
Yeah.
So it's really just being like, okay, if this is grouper, it's grouper. It's not.
And it took the
it's
buy-in of the big guys, and there's some big companies out there that are really buying in with 100% traceability and where it came from and what it is.
So there's big ones that are like,
Yeah.
we're down for that.
Yeah,
So there's
absolutely.
not that resistance from like, no, dude, we need to keep being
No,
shady.
they got to get on that train now, or they're
Yeah.
out.
Yeah,
and
good.
that leads you down the path of like farm fish versus wild fish and all that stuff. It's a big conversation that you could spend a whole podcast on.
I feel like we need to do one at one point, just a
Yeah.
single
Yeah.
about that.
There's
Just-
a lot of aspects of sustainability that we cover. We
Mm-hmm.
sustainably fish, we sustainably harvest and use the products from our fish. We buy and source sustainable fish. So it's but at the end of the day, they're like, what does that really mean though?
Yeah.
And it's it's just making smart choices. We want fish to be there for my kids and their kids, and want them to always make good choices when it comes to that. So.
Where do you think things went wrong that we, for so long, weren't tracing where the fish were caught and all of those things?
I don't.
accountability by
I
the
don't know.
government. Like that's
Where
lack
it went
of-
wrong? I mean, I think just, mass
to this day, I
grocery stores, you go to a grocery store and it's just filled with food. And a
mean,
lot of
there's
people
no-
don't ask
yeah.
questions. There's not
Yeah.
someone really there providing you with answers to your questions. You just are like, oh, I trust that fish is probably fine. They're selling it.
It's not expired. We're good.
But
Yeah.
no, I mean, but what we're talking about really is like, if you were to walk into a supermarket in town and it was a certain type of whitefish, or sea bass is a loose term. There's probably like 100 sea basses out there.
Okay.
And they just call one thing sea bass, and they could use 10 types of fish. There's no checks and balance system for them to say that is actually sea bass. No, there's no police that's going to come in and say that.
Yeah.
So I walk into stores all the time, or like I see things on menus, and I just ask small questions. I don't harass them. I don't want to be a fish snob or anything, but I'm like, she'll do it. It's like sea bass. What kind of sea bass? sea bass, and they're like, they just
Just pronounce
I
it
just got
differently.
teased when I was at a
Sabah.
wedding recently. So they had fish tacos, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, what kind of fish is this?" And they literally said sea bass, and I said, "What kind of sea bass?" And he just looked at me like,
Yeah.
"I don't know."
so it's just being like, it's just being honest about what you're selling
Just
and
asking
what
questions,
you're
and don't be
Sure.
afraid to ask questions.
Yeah.
And
Well-
if the person you're eating your food from doesn't know, it's not a red flag, but that would maybe give them an opportunity to be like, oh shoot, maybe I need to go kind
sure.
of educate myself more so I know what I'm serving these people.
Yeah.
Seafood
exactly.
Watch has a good one. Seafoodwatch.org has a good app. They're a little stringent on their things, but yeah, I mean that's a good one to have
It's
if you
a good
really
way,
want to
yeah.
know
For what? Like,
for
it'll
like
tell
what's
you-
sustainable. They have a system.
Okay.
It's green, yellow, and red. It's pretty easy. It's an app. You can put it into your phone. If you're sitting at a menu, and you're going to California, people are way into that. Like there's a seafood QR code. Boom, what's on my menu, which is awesome.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's really
But
cool.
people tend to shy away from that because that's going to cost you more money. The fish is going to be more expensive. All that stuff it passes down. So they usually don't want to deal with it.
Sure. Yeah. Yep.
How have you seen consumers kind of shift? I assume they've become more educated over the years. Myself personally, I was at like a high-end grocery store recently and went through the whole thing of saying, oh, where's this chicken from? And they had to go in the back and flip through a book. And they eventually found the place. But, it's different when working with someone like you guys that knows everything from where the fish came from to why it's more sustainable. How has that journey kind of been educating consumers?
It was tough in the beginning. People would argue with us. I mean,
I think
Really?
our biggest hurdle
Yeah.
was farmed salmon versus wild
Farmed
salmon
fish.
and farmed fish in general. But because salmon's so heavily marketed across the world,
it's a commodity.
it's
and then literally it's like pork, chicken, beef, salmon, and then there's fish.
I
And then
think-
crab or something's in there. But I mean, I think.
Yeah, I think that to kind of go back to your question, I think that we just focused on from the beginning of trying to share as much information as possible and letting people know that asking questions isn't bad. Like you asking them about your chicken and forcing them to go back and check, they learned at the same time. So now, it's just kind of the consumer being more comfortable asking the questions forces everybody to learn more
Yeah.
and to grow and to educate and to just continue to share that information. And it's just kind of been something that's part of our part of our culture here is to, give them as much information as they know, and if they don't know, we find out.
Yeah. And the farm subject, again, like I said, we could have a whole podcast on it. But my simple thought on it is it's commodity, like I said. And you want to know where it came from. And there's good chicken farms and there's bad chicken farms. There's good salmon farms. There's bad salmon farms. That's the basis of
Exactly.
it. And if you can't eat wild chicken for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at with salmon, man. If you don't eat salmon, if you only eat wild, it's not really that responsible.
Ah, really interesting.
Because you think about it, because if you just only eat wild the rest of your life, that's all you eat, then don't eat it because there's not going to be any around.
Well, and
left
it's
for
going to
anybody
be
else.
frozen
Or for
half
your
the
kids.
year, and that's fine. Frozen fish
frozen
isn't
fish is great.
bad.
yeah.
Done the right way.
But
You
like
mean
you
cooked
said,
once it's frozen, like
No,
or froze
just
the
froze it off.
frozen.
Okay.
The right way.
Well, if you're if you're only eating wild salmon
Yeah.
from Alaska, there's wild salmon from Alaska is only available a small window of the year. So the rest of the year, if you're only going to commit to eating wild salmon, well, then you're only committing to eating frozen fish the rest of the year, which is totally
by the way,
fine.
wild king salmon is the best.
A lot of, I mean, of
Already now
of course,
wild
wild
salmon.
is the
What's
best.
the stuff your dad used to eat? The white wild king.
Well, I mean, my dad grew up fishing in Alaska, and I was totally anti-farmed salmon, but I wasn't educated about farmed salmon. So once I took the time to educate myself about it, I was full on board. Just like cows and chickens and pigs, they weren't bred, or, they didn't wake up one day permanently on a farm. Like they were wild at one point.
Yeah.
So there's good
People forget
farms
that.
and bad farms, like John said, and it all goes into asking the questions and finding out more, and don't be afraid to do so.
And we're not trying to tell people like, well, we don't tell people you can eat farm, you can eat wild. We're just educating on what we have,
Yeah.
and why we like it and why we don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Creating that culture of, like you guys said, accountability, but also promoting people asking the questions and holding you accountable really puts your money where your mouth is and
Yeah,
builds.
because when you ask someone a question, they don't know the answer. You're just like, okay.
Well, yeah, and
you
it's
know?
we
kind of get chills. Like,
we want the consumer to trust us as their seafood purveyor, and we want to make sure that we're being as transparent as possible and not trying to pull one on anybody. This is what it is, and this is we're going to stand behind our product because we know it's quality and it's awesome. So we've converted so many anti-farmed salmon lovers or anti-farmed salmon people to they're like, this is the best salmon I've ever had. I'm addicted to it now.
Yeah.
There's some really good farmed salmon out there.
There's really great farmed fish everywhere. It's just doing the research, finding the right things.
And ironically, those same people go to sushi down the street and crush salmon rolls.
Yeah.
It's all farmed. It's all farmed. But they don't ask.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
They don't
sometimes because
think
you
to
don't
ask.
know, or
If
you
go to a
or you
fish
don't want to
market,
know.
It's weird. It's like expected if you're going to go buy it at a fish market, but if you go to somewhere that fish shouldn't be cheap. That's kind of the. It's a high end product,
Unless
If you're
you're buying
buying
it
cheap
off the dock.
fish, you're gonna probably have a not great experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not going to tell anybody what to buy or what not to buy, but just don't be afraid to ask questions about
Know
what
you're buying,
buying.
right?
Yeah,
Knowing
know
what you're buying. Okay, I did not expect today for you to tell me that farmed fish is not bad, right? But it I mean, that's just one of those blanket statements.
It's been
where we say,
so
it's-
heavily marketed, and
Yeah.
people will be like, "Well, John used to have asked me, well, where'd you read that on the internet? Where'd you read it on the internet?" I don't know.
Somebody commented it on a Facebook post one time, and now it's
Facebook
That's a whole other
Facebook told me
podcast.
to not eat farm fish.
Yeah, like,
so, anyways,
you can put whatever you want out there.
Like
and
I
it's
said,
the
we could
Bible.
talk about farm fish
That's why-
sustainability and all of that for
That's why
hours.
Seafood Watch or seafood.org.
Seafood Watch, yeah.
Seafoodwatch.org. They have an app.
We haven't even talked about the way we fish.
Yeah. One of the ways we fish is the most sustainable way to harvest swordfish in Southern California. It's the finest swordfish in the world. We do it with two methods. We hand harpoon it, which is we have a 30-foot plank off the end of our boat. And when the fish come up at certain points of the day in the season, you'll see their fins, and we have guys spotting them, or we have a plane that flies around and looks for them. And then we hand harpoon them. This allows us to get the fish on the boat quickly, to dispatch it right, and to not let the freak out, let it to be peaceful and nice. And then another way we do it is called deep set buoy. And so we drop about 10 separate buoys, about 1,000 feet, big squid, like a glow stick and a disco light on it. And we'd set them down there, and there's a series of buoy systems, and we tend them all day. And then we look for other fish to harpoon at the same time. It's a lot of work. And then at the end of the day, if fish hits on, they usually come up, we pull them up by hand, and we put them on this little tiny block. You ever seen the Angry Crab show? They have this big block, and they pull those big pots up, but we have a little tiny one. It's very gentle, and we bring it up. We make sure that it's taken care of, and it's basically hand line swordfish.
Okay.
And we last year were lucky. We don't think we had any bycatch last year.
Any what?
Wow.
Any bycatch at all. And so you look at these other things, and people are using nets, and long lines. You're getting a lot of bycatch, long line sharks, bycatch your turtles and
Whales,
dolphins.
They're biting at it as you're.
No. I'm saying like when you're using a net, you're getting bycatch. Bycatch is bycatch is a species you're not targeting.
Gotcha.
So
but you're just getting all this
these
stuff
guys
in
are if
this.
they're gill netting swordfish.
Yeah.
You'll get turtles in your net. You're going to get dolphins. You're going to get whales. You're going to kill other species.
Yeah.
By hand harpooning and using deep set buoy, we have zero bycatch pretty much. I think last year we got like a brown thresher shark or maybe something, but we sold it. We used it. We treated it the right way. We processed it.
Yeah.
So we used everything we caught last year and the year before, which is I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
And that's not a common thing.
We
It's
don't have
not
a net on our boat.
Yeah.
We own a net, but we don't use it anymore. We set it
No,
aside.
we actually
'cause-
just sold it to there's an organization in California that basically buys your net off of you, so you stop So it's like out of circulation.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Bob Barker started that.
we
Who did
haven't-
The Price is Right. Bob Barker.
Did he really?
started- Yeah, no, he did.
We haven't had the net in operation on our boat for years, but it's just been sitting, and I think we finally did get
We made
rid
the
of it in
decision
California.
We made the decision about 5 years ago to take the net off our boat because it just wasn't the right thing to do, and we lost a lot of money. We lost a lot of we could have made a lot of money on it, but it just wasn't the right thing to do.
Well, and the
Because
product.
you're going to be pulling more things.
No, because we
and
started a sustainable
it's-
fishing company, and you
It's
can't.
not a sustainable
can't have a net on your boat.
operation,
Yeah.
and
Interesting.
Because I see it all the time.
the quality of product from a net is completely different.
Because
the-
it dies, it suffocates. It
You
sits
don't
in
know
the
how
net,
long it's
struggles.
sitting there. So when we're pulling out these swordfish are deep water fish. So the deep net buoy operation is catching them in their natural habitat. And it's single lines. They're hooked and they're brought up. And it's some of the best swordfish I've ever had in my
It's the
entire
best
life.
in the world.
Yeah.
by far.
And the
I have
harpoon,
no problem saying that.
the
like it, man.
harpoon
I like that.
is just their way. They come up to the top to digest. They're up there like essentially sunning themselves, and we sneak up on them. And it's a similar operation, but it's a little bit more primal in that sense.
Yeah.
And it doesn't bring as many fish as what a net would, absolutely. But we stand behind the fact that like this is the right way to do it. This is the right way for the future.
Yeah.
And this is the message that we need to send to others.
The way you described having a plane fly around and single harpooning them and whatnot, I will pay a premium just for that badass story behind it.
It's a pretty wild operation,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
I would
And
like to go see
I've been
that.
on several boat trips
It
where
can be
we
pretty
haven't.
boring, though.
It
Yeah.
can. Well, before we were doing deep set buoy, waiting and looking for harpoon fish is a very, just like he said earlier, it's a lazy fisherman's job because you basically have this window of, nice months where the water is crystal, or flat, and you're looking for swordfish fins, and you sneak up with them. We have a 30-foot plank off the front of our boat, and our deckhand, he sneaks up on them, and they just get up behind it and pow. And
So
then
it's a hand,
it's a hand operation.
Yeah,
It's
that
a-
is-
I mean, I
like you s-
think the harpoon, I don't know, is also 30 feet long. It's a big, the actual harpoon itself is a small little steel metal dart
Kinda like
that
that
goes in.
hook thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So they get it and it stays, and the stick, we keep that, and it swims off with the buoy. But yeah, there's a little, is that the...
This is your boat?
Yeah, that's our little video of our boat.
Right there?
Yeah, I know it doesn't do great for your podcast content, but
Well, we'll
Kinda
show.
get
I
you
can
in
show
track
you
and
some
mind
other
around,
stuff
yeah.
too. Is that the...
yeah, that's the boat.
That's
though.
awesome, man. Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, those are the
And those are the buoys?
Yeah,
Very cool.
That's just
We'll be sure to share some
yeah.
of those pictures.
Yeah,
Some of
yeah,
those
I'll
pictures
get you
with
some
us,
of
yeah.
that. So it's a pretty cool. It blows my mind every day. When I go out there and we actually see the swordfish and they're harvested, and the way that our crew takes care of them once they're out of the water, and
Yeah.
just the total respect for the animal from ocean to boat to plate is something that we're so proud of.
And I feel like there's a lot of people going back to that, kind of like
Absolutely.
I don't know if you know Chef Brett Vibber or Tamara Stanger from Cotton
absolutely,
Copper.
yeah.
The way that they're doing
Yes.
foraging, and
Yep.
but they're also being respectful of they only take
they
what,
do
a
things
third.
the hard way.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yep. But
Yep.
what a story, and what a product that they end up putting on the table.
Absolutely.
You know,
And a
it's-
fervent fan base too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
People that really
absolutely. Die
are
hard.
excited about it.
Yeah, because they give a shit, man. Mm-hmm. They work harder than everybody else to do those things.
Yeah.
He goes out and forages, and man, you ever had her pies? Her pies are the best pies.
Yeah,
I've
vinegar
ever-
pies.
All of them, every one of them. I've never had a bad one.
Hey, should we bring in
Hogan?
Hogan now?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's
Sure.
grab Hogan. Well, we just did a little switch out. Mandy stepped away for a second, and now we have Hogan.
Yep.
Hogan, thanks for joining, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is awesome.
You've known this fella for a while.
Yeah, about fifth grade, I think he came over to our school.
Yeah, I came from the other side of town.
Yeah.
From the other side of the town.
Yeah, I lived in Moon Valley.
Okay.
And
Dude,
my sister went to Xavier, so that's why they moved me down the street. So-
Okay. Gotcha. And so, are you originally from here?
Yeah, born and raised, born in Prescott actually. Raised here though.
Okay.
My whole life. actually right down the street from here in this neighborhood. So
Yeah.
been around here, pretty much forever. Moved out of town a few times, but always continue to come back home. So.
Always came back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you met this guy, fifth
Yeah.
grade.
Yeah, 5th grade. It was we didn't like each other actually.
I was going to say, was there a fight? And
No, there was.
there actually was.
There was many of them. We didn't like each other. We got to know each other better with like 8th grade. End of 8th grade, and then
definitely
freshman
8th grade
year
into high school. We became
and then,
really good friends.
And then like junior, senior year, we were really good friends.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it didn't start off so good. You know, I think,
No, but by
fighting
college,
over girls and you know.
But by the end of college or after college, I told him that I went to ASU for 7. He went to U of A.
Yeah.
Okay.
4 years and graduated. I told him I'm
look at
still
this
working
guy.
on my
So
I'm still
we're
working on my
working on
credits.
Yeah.
He's getting an evaluation. How do these transfer from, you know?
Well, I like to like weigh my options. So but and then by the end of college, him and I were really good friends. We have actually really lucky. We got a group of buddies that are, there's like 4 or 5 of us now that are really good friends. We still talk. It's hard to get together now these days, but we all have families. We all have kids and stuff.
Yeah, it was awesome. We, that's when we started fishing together, going out on his dad's boat and really spending a lot of time together.
Yeah.
That's kind of where the whole fish thing started kind of tie into who we are now. It was just a lot of fun getting out on the boat and hanging out
he
with
was
buddies.
He was out in D.C. He was working out in Washington D.C. and he flew out and he went on a swordfish trip. Was it like 5 or 6 of us on that trip?
Yeah, it's about
nice.
6 of us for
and like
about
3 or 4
days.
Caught a couple big fish and that kind of like, my buddies and I always loved to fish. Man, we were at lakes and golf courses our whole lives. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what did you go to? You went to school for 4 years, graduated.
Yeah, business. Just
Okay.
business. Honestly, that's when I got into the restaurant business, was during school.
Okay.
I worked at a bar for about 4.5 years down there.
In Tucson.
Worked my way up, as a bouncer, a cook, a busser, a back bar, bartender. I mean, you name it. I did pretty much every job.
Yeah.
I was the guy that they're like, we need somebody. I just raised my hand and said, I'm there.
Yeah.
I just loved it. I just loved the camaraderie of the restaurant business. And it reminded me of like playing sports as a kid. You just like have that team sort of atmosphere and you all go to battle together with each other. And then you kind of celebrate it at the end. And it was a lot of fun. So I got kind of stuck into it and never left since there. So.
So what did you do over the years from the time you graduated to...
Yeah, I moved to Washington, D.C. I worked for Kimpton Hotels for about 5 years. And then I spent a short stint working at Charlie Palmer's Steakhouse. And then I moved back here. And I spent almost 12 years working for Fox Restaurant Concepts.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I did a bunch of different concepts with them. I started with North. I worked at Bloom, Greenhouse, Olive and Ivy.
Okay.
And I finished my career there at True Food. And I spent about 6 years working on True Food and helping True Food grow.
From like a management, like a leadership aspect?
Management, GM.
John shaking his head, eyes open, like,
Spent a bunch of time
trained the GMs.
opening some restaurants, spent some time as a regional manager.
Okay.
Training manager. I trained all the managers for all of True Food for a couple of years. And that's when he called me one day. We started talking. He's like, I want to do this fish thing. And I was like, you're crazy. You're crazy.
Why? Why did you think he was crazy for wanting to do that?
Well, because I've been in this business a long time and understanding this business.
He told me I'd never sell swordfish in this town. He did tell me that. He sells
and then
a
you
lot.
guys got in another fight.
He sells a lot of swordfish in this town now. No.
Well, yeah, I sell it.
Yeah, he sells it. Exactly.
No, but I did. I thought he was kind of crazy, which he was.
Got to be a little
but
bit,
you
right?
have to be like that. That was the part that kind of stuck with me, was how dedicated he was to his craziness. And he just kept pushing, and we kept meeting, and we kept talking about it, and we kept doing, just having conversations, to the point where he's like, I'm doing it anyways. I'm like, well, I have a really good job. I'm not like just jumping the boat yet to jump on. And so I started buying fish from him and kind of helped him in the beginning get going.
Getting fish for True Food.
Yeah, and we were bringing in
We
fish
talked
for
about a
True
couple
Food
people that
and-
helped get us started, and Sam Fox Restaurant Concepts, when he was still when they're in the beginning.
Yeah.
It's a little different now, but yeah, man, they supported us at quite a few restaurants, and we really appreciated
That's
that.
huge, man, because that footprint that they
not
have
only
is-
Sam,
Yeah.
not only Hogan, but Sam as well. Sam has always been a big supporter of us, so we appreciate that.
Yeah, so
That means a lot.
And then one day he was like, we gotta like expand what I'm doing. It's starting to work, and we went and looked at some space, and he's like, I want to take this, and that's when I just jumped on board. I was like, let's do this.
Yeah. He proved himself to you?
Yeah, he showed me that his craziness was worth it.
Yeah.
And it meant something.
So to be honest though, we hired him at first, and I think was it 3 months? With 3 months,
I don't know.
3 months later, my father and I decided that he's probably should be a third owner of the company.
Yeah.
And it was one of the best decisions we ever made. Him and my wife are an amazing team. So.
Yeah, we got a lot of great people. That's really what it comes down to in the end is, our product's amazing, but it's the people that we surround ourselves with. I think that's one thing that I know I brought to the table was we just have to have great people, and we have to treat great people great, and have that sort of mentality amongst us as a group. So it started, it was him and I. We hired on Juan as a part-time chef, sort of back of the house help.
We briefly touched on one.
Yeah.
If you can, like how important he is to us and how we.
Yeah,
felt on
he
him.
was. It was me building the menu at first as we went in and opened our first market. We hired Juan on to just cover 15, 20 hours a week. And he showed me that I was a terrible chef.
You thought you were good?
He's a good chef. He's a really good chef, though.
I know I can cook, but I'm not a chef. And
Yeah.
there's a difference for sure. And he taught me about what a chef really is and just understanding, kind of building flavor. And he really took it to another level and really helped expand what we were able to do with fish and what we were able to do with food. Taught me a ton along the way. And honestly, we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Juan. We give him a big shout out because he kind of took what we had and made it great at a different level. And we're just very appreciative of that for sure.
What do you think separates them? Like what makes Juan?
His ability to build flavor is second to none. I've worked with a lot of great chefs. I mean, a lot of great chefs, and I give them all props for what they do. For some way, he knows how to just build flavor on top of flavor on top of flavor that just keeps giving and bursting in your mouth as you eat. It's different. It was just different. It was at a different level than I've had dealt with other people.
Do you remember what he said at the Arizona Republic Food and Wine Festival when we put everything together? We were serving like 3,000, 4,000 bites. I said, hey, he starts serving. I said, did you try it? Did you test it? He goes, no, but I know what everything tastes like separately, so it works. And it just blew my mind that you wouldn't taste something before you served it to like 4,000 people.
Yeah. And then you're like, God dang.
No, but it was
tasted
it was
All right,
amazing.
yeah.
No, but that was a long time. That was a couple of years ago. I trust him now. I mean, obviously, but that just blows my mind.
That's turns it into a math problem in a way, right? It puts like a numbers to it.
He definitely sees it from a scientific standpoint.
Yeah.
And and understands why they should go together and not that they do go together. There's like a deeper understanding of it. And I'd just never seen somebody kind of take that angle when they're building a flavor before. And it's really impressive.
Yeah.
And again, we eat a lot. We eat out a lot. We deal with a lot of chefs. And his food just has always blown me away.
Yeah.
Does that affect the wholesale side of things at all? I would assume it would in terms of educating chefs and how they can use it.
It did, especially in the beginning. So, we started with wholesale, and then we went to the farmers markets, and then we opened our retail to the public in addition to the farmers market. But when we opened the retail to the public, it exploded the wholesale part of it. People were, it's our places are kind of where, chefs come to eat seafood.
Okay.
They gather around it, It's not uncommon for chefs from all over the valley to just walk in and walk right behind our place and go talk to Kyle or one of our chefs, because that's the kind of place we have. We do, not right now lately, but like we built our business on, doing things with other people, like pop-ups and working with other chefs and stuff like that. So like, that it definitely helped our wholesale business 100%.
Yeah, it was,
You know?
to me, it was like we really joined in on the community piece of the restaurant world. We used to have the chefs come into the shop, and we would hook them up with all these different sashimi platters and smoked platters, which are now on the menu. They weren't even on the menu back then.
Yeah.
But everybody would see the photos on Instagram and stuff. They'd be like, "Can I get that thing that chef had there that one time?" We're like, "Well, we don't really do that." We're like, "Wait a second, maybe we should do that."
Yeah, and that's like that's where our like smoked platter, like all those like amazing smoked flavors that Juan works on, and Kyle, like those came about of the scraps that Mandy were talking about, and those are some of our best things. I was telling him earlier, Hogan, about the Cubano, how it comes out of scraps, and it's one of the best sandwiches in town, biasly. But
and to me, that's where our greatness lies. It all lies in anybody can grill a piece of fish. It's all in utilizing everything you're given and finding a way to serve it in a fun, cool, different way.
Sure.
My mindset behind building menus is like, I want to tap into somebody's emotions, like people have had a Cubano all over town.
Yeah.
They just never had one with smoked swordfish on it, and so that's kind of our mentality. We have a salmon pastrami sandwich that we serve at our Scottsdale shop. That's, based off like a New York style slaw over pastrami, but it's pastrami salmon and smoked, and but it gives you kind of that same thought that you're sitting in a New York style deli, but you're eating in a fish market with some fish on here, which is really cool.
In Phoenix.
Exactly.
Arizona, yeah. That's
It's one thing to be able to get your hands on some of the best swordfish, if not the best swordfish in the world. It's a whole nother thing to be able to put that out in the market in a way that hasn't been done before.
Absolutely.
Not only just on the retail side like you guys are doing, but then getting that into chefs' hands and them doing it once again. It's a very special thing. And, Arizona being not on the ocean sounds like it really had a lack of that before this new wave that you guys have kind of brought about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we always thought of ourselves as building something iconic. Like we wanted to be the iconic fish place of Arizona because we don't have one here. And, nobody ever thought it needed one, honestly. But we found out that the community here is all from Seattle, and they're from Chicago, and they're from New York, and they're from California, and they're from Florida, and they're from, the Gulf. And they're all looking for seafood.
Good seafood.
And good seafood.
Yeah.
And so it was really awesome to kind of see how much they wanted it. And then for us to surprise them and show it in a different way that they'd never seen it before. And that's where the guys like Kyle and Juan come in, where they've just, they think outside the box. They don't think about what everything's happened before us. Let's think about the future and what we can build for what we're doing differently. So it's been cool.
So for consumers that visit here or a restaurant or anywhere looking for fish, what are the kind of things that they should look for if they want to be supporting, sustainable, high-quality fishing operations?
Well, I mean, I talked earlier about the seafoodwatch.org app.
I'm starting to think that you're
no, I'm not
a representative
to be
from
honest with you,
Seafood Watch.
I don't know. I don't actually agree with all of their things, but it's the first place where you can really like understand what's good for you to eat and what isn't. Again, I don't agree with all of their views, but it's an accessible app that you can trust. That's not just gibberish that somebody paid somebody to put on the internet.
Sure.
They do it because they're doing it for the right reasons. Yeah, obviously people invest in their company and their business, and then they promote certain seafood, but the basis of what they're doing, there's certain labels you can look on your food, and unfortunately we don't do it over here. Whole Foods does a great job of it at their store. They have their green, they follow the seafoodwatch.org.
Okay.
And you don't necessarily have to do that, but ask where your fish comes from. That's kind of where it is. And like Manny said, it's not a red flag if they don't know. Like you said, they went and found out, So, just kind of knowing where your fish comes from is the number one key. Like we talked about earlier, farm fish, knowing what type of farm it comes from. Hogan wasn't here, but like we talked about how I told some of the finest fish in the world is farmed now.
Yeah, it's amazing what they've done and how technology is changing the game constantly and what they're able to create.
But just ask
sustainability. Yeah, I think that's it.
I mean, that's kind of all you can do other than that app.
I mean, I think
You know?
your best bet is to just come to Chula.
Yeah.
Talk to us. And
See, that's
we'll talk to you about fish. We'll give you our knowledge. We'll share what we can with you. One thing I love about working in this is we get a lot of stories coming to us from people and their experiences, their fishing experience, or their experience with other fish, or, being on a boat and eating fresh sashimi right off the bone, those types of things. Like it creates a very cool kind of community around what we do, because
we get guys trying to give us grouper out of Mexico all the time. Hey, let me bring you a grouper that I caught the other day. We're like, no, we can't do that.
That's
man.
not
Sorry.
really what we do here. But,
It's not really
appreciate
legal.
your offer. But yeah, I mean, that helps kind of build and create the community. But I think, find the people you trust. If you're looking at really inexpensive seafood, you should probably ask yourself why. Why is it so inexpensive? Because what we know, being in the business from the water to here, it's not a cheap operation. It takes a lot of money. Fuel's really expensive. Manpower is really expensive. You don't always catch when you want to catch. They don't just jump onto your line.
We said the
it's just not that easy.
laziest catch, right? You said it's a slow,
It's slow. It's boring. People are like, we got to go out there. I'm like, can you sit 8 hours and just going rocking back and forth? With,
I would
is
throw
that
up in the
really
first 10
what
minutes,
you're
probably.
into?
Seriously.
It's not for everybody.
You
It's definitely not for everybody. We've taken quite a few people out that are like, that was fun, but I'm never coming back.
and Manny touched on another thing is the way we harvest the fish. It's emotional, man. It's like it's a huge animal.
Oh yeah.
We took his wife out.
My wife almost became a vegetarian that day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like it was just she'd never seen something like that, and
imagine
she has a very
have you ever been on like a
close
deer
connection.
hunt, an elk hunt? It's just like just to see the life of something taken like that. But the thing that I always know is that every piece of that fish will be used, and it'll feed my family, and it'll feed other people's families. So then we talked about earlier, no bycatch, there's zero. Like even the stuff that we do pull up, we use,
which is so important.
which we didn't pull up anything in the last couple of years.
Because
Pretty
you're
much.
harpooning, yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned something. I'm glad you brought that back up. You mentioned that the taste of it is different depending on how the animal dies.
Absolutely. He can touch a little bit more than I can on that.
Yeah, it's interesting because the stress an animal goes through at the end of its life will kind of it can emit a toxin into its
a stress
meat.
toxin.
And it's a stress toxin that kind of helps it kind of fight what it's going through.
Yeah.
And so you want to put them through as little stress as possible.
Yeah.
And that's going to find the best quality meat at the end of the day. And that's really what we do is in taking care of every little piece and making sure you don't pull it in too early. You don't leave it down too long. There's a lot of little tiny factors that go into it. And then when it's ready, you get it up and you make sure you take care of it and kill it as quickly as possible. That's also a really important point. So when it gets on the boat, it's not going through the stress factors. And respect. I really find that like the respect we give that fish from the second it's on our line to the second it's in our boat to the second we're cutting it down, covering its eyes so it doesn't have to look and go through the stress
a towel
of what's
over its
going
eyes when it comes on the
it.
boat. So it
it's just
doesn't
like
see
those
us.
little tiny things that really make a big difference at the end of the day that most people wouldn't know the difference. But when you cut open one that's been through a bunch of stress and you cut open one that hasn't, and you can see the difference just in the color of the meat itself. And then the flavor of the meat, the texture of the meat, all of it kind of coincides with that.
Yeah, if a fish is stressed or is caught in a certain a net method type, you can look at it and see you can see the color of it. It almost emits like a green tint to it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's just over time, seeing the fish over time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. That just builds onto this.
But that's
brand
any
even
animal.
more. Yeah.
That's any animal.
Yeah.
Any farm, how they dispatch, how they raise them.
Yeah.
It's all that. It's the whole life of the animal is involved in the final product.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the vision for Chula moving forward? Like, where do you guys see this going?
We got some exciting things coming, actually.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, we're we're working on an expansion here at Uptown.
Okay.
We're
All this wall right here.
we're
the
about to
north
break
wall.
down this wall down and add a bar and a patio.
I don't want to love this wall.
And kind of build on to
This is
what
a
we
great wall.
have here. That's kind of the saddest part, was kind of getting rid of this old brick wall.
And you have the big logo over there. That logo's
the
badass.
logo's going to stay.
Okay.
We're going to kind of build around that.
Nice.
And really kind of keep the original view of what this is and just kind of build on that. But we feel like a bar piece and a patio piece to this concept will really help us kind of grow as we go forward. And then we would like to open a few more around town. Honestly, we'd love to be North Scottsdale. We'd love to be in Norterra. We'd love to be in Gilbert, Arcadia. There's a lot of different spots, and we hear from people like you that are like, man, my neighborhood could really use one. So we've got a lot of ideas. We got a lot of ideas outside of fish too, so you might see some things pop up outside the fish world, because we do have a lot of restaurant power within our walls here of people with a bunch of knowledge that go outside of the fish world. So we might expand as we continue to grow through that and try some new things. But in the immediate future, just expanding here at Uptown is really what we're focused on right now.
Nice.
And continue to spread our brand and tell people really what we're trying to accomplish, which is just give great hospitality, provide the highest quality fish with the highest quality experience, and make it as easy on our guests as possible. We've added in home delivery service.
Nice.
We're putting more tables outside for people to feel more comfortable as we're going through another spike here.
You can order directly off our website.
You can order directly off our website now.
Nice.
We do a lot of different things. We have a Monday night dinner here at Uptown.
Those
That's
are
pretty awesome. That kind of has been our stretch outside of seafood a lot of times. We've been doing fried chicken. We've been doing, we did a Korean fried chicken. We've done, we did New Mexican enchiladas and a bunch of different stuff. So we kind of switch it up every couple of Mondays. You can pick up, which is an awesome way to kind of see what we do outside of what we do on a regular basis.
We came on the wrong day of the week.
We did we did birria tacos I think 4 months ago. I haven't stopped thinking about them.
What were they?
Like birria tacos, like goat tacos, dipped in consomme. Oh.
Yeah.
When are those coming back?
I don't know. She won't bring them back just because I want them. So.
But we just love food.
Yeah.
We're definitely just food lovers. We love fish. We love what we do, but more than that, we just love food and being around food.
Hell yeah. And doing it and putting a story behind it is what I think is awesome. And there's so much depth to it that it's, so nice work, guys.
Appreciate it.
Great spot. Anything else you can think of?
No, just want to let everyone know again that this episode was brought to you by seafoodwatch.org.
Yeah.
I mean, when you bring it up, that's the only way. Again, like I said, I don't agree with all their views, but it is the only way to quickly get on your phone and look at something you can eat.
And if you're listening, Seafood Watch, give us a call.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Where there are sponsorship opportunities at this time. So
We'll take whatever we can get.
awesome.
They still haven't listed our swordfish as the most sustainable there is for some reason. That's one of my beefs with them. But another podcast.
Dude, I think I've got a whole list
That's
of
a
other
whole nother
podcasts
day.
we're going to do. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Hey,
Mandy,
appreciate
thanks
it.
for joining.
Well, everyone, there you have it, Chula Seafood. We hope you liked the episode. Make sure to visit their spots because they've got some truly phenomenal food. Follow Chula Seafood as well as A Taste of AZ on social media. See you next time.